Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm really excited to bring you a new wing tutorial. It's been forever since I've done wings, and these are specifically Tohru's wings from the anime Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Yee! But more importantly, this is going to be an example showcasing my newest product, which y'all have been asking for literally years upon years, ever since 2018. You have been asking me to release these, and I finally have, and these are the first of 2 wing harnesses that I'm gonna have available to help you with your next cosplay. And these are not just your average wing harness to attach wings to. They also detach. And I'm gonna be going over in this tutorial how to make these wings, but also how to make these harnesses so that way you can use them for your next cosplay. And I'll note before we begin that these specific wing harnesses are for more lighter weight and smaller size wings. And I will have a second wing harness and wing making tutorial specifically for larger wings that are more heavyweight. So make sure to check that one out before you decide which wing harness you want to get. But also, since you're here, don't forget, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. Starting off with the tools and materials for making the base wings of this build. And I'll have links to everything in the description, as well as I'll have the blueprint for Tohru's wings on my website, TiffanyGordonCosplay.com. And our first step is going to be heat treating our HD foam. And I'm going to be using 2 different sizes for this project, size 6mm and 10mm. Tracing the outermost shape of the wing blueprint onto 6mm foam 2 times, and then tracing the frame part of the wings onto 10mm 4 times. Then with a box cutter, I cut out each of the pieces. Now for attaching those pieces, I'm going to be using contact cement glue, and a little helpful tip is trace where the outer frame part of those wings is going to lay on the main wing piece, so that way you know where to apply your contact cement glue, as well as apply it to the backside of the wing frame, and wait for the glue to fully dry before attaching it together. And I did this for both the front and the backside of the wings. Then for cleanup, and I like to use my Dremel and my largest sanding drum, and I'll have a link for it in the description, and I go around all of the edges that we stacked and sand them flat, followed by getting my smaller head sanding drum and rounding all the edges, so that way they don't look so sharp and it looks more natural-like. And because these are sanded edges, they will be a little bit more fluffy. So to get rid of that, do a very light heat treat with a heat gun just on those edges. But remember not to apply too much heat to certain sections, because you do not want those edges to lift up and you don't want the glue to reactivate. And here's what the before and after look like once sanded. Now to talk about the harness. Now this harness, I highly recommend printing it in PETG filament. Reason being is this is going to be a lot stronger than the other filaments, and it's going to be better with more hotter environments. And also, as requested, I changed this harness so that way we are using PVC pipes. So to my international friends, you're welcome. And I'll have links to all of these tools and materials in the description of the video, as well as you're gonna probably want the file for my wing harness, and that's available on TiffanyGordonCosplay.com. This is for the small, lightweight wings, and this file is 3 pieces. 1 is going to be the harness, and 2 for the knuckles. And the first step that you're going to want to do is, of course, print them. And again, print them in PETG filament, as well as doing an infill of at least 15 to 20% to make sure it is strong enough. And a little helpful tip for people opening this file, reminder that these files are in inches, so if it shows up on your screen really tiny, you will need to convert it into inches. And normally that just means you are scaling it up from millimeters to inches, which is then from 100 to 2,500 $540. As well as for a free slicer program for specifically printing on a FDM printer, I recommend either using Elegoo's slicer program for your specific printer or using Prusa's. And both of them have a free version that should give you the ability to put your file in, scale it, as well as separate each of the parts individually. And once printed, we will need to grab our PVC pipe. This is going to be size 1/2 inch, and I recommend making sure that it fits into all of the holes that you have printed, which should be 4 on the harness and 3 on either of the knuckles. Reason for this is, depending on your printer, you might have sagging stair steps, or there might be a little burr on it and you might need to file it down a little bit. Then grab a ruler and you're going to want to cut your pipe 4 times. Each one is going to be the length of 1.5 inches. And I use this by marking it with a Sharpie and then cutting it with a pipe cutter. And for attaching these pipes to the harness, we're going to be using 2-part epoxy, but our pipes are a smooth surface, so you want to rough up with 120 grit sandpaper, so that way your pipe has a little bit of a grit to it, so our epoxy will have something to adhere onto with the pipe. Then, working on one side of the harness at a time, apply your epoxy inside one of the holes, as well as a little bit around the pipe in the bottom, and insert it and wipe away any extra glue. Do this for one side, then wait 5 minutes for it to slightly cure. It shouldn't be where it'll bond anymore to anything. And get that side knuckle and just slightly put it on top and insert it all of the way down to make sure that those pipes will fit perfectly. And then move that knuckle again so that way we make sure it doesn't bond. And this will ensure that it perfectly aligns. Then repeat for the opposite side. And once that's done, wait 24 hours for it all to fully dry before continuing to work. Now for the straps, and we're going to be using nylon straps that are size 1.5 inch, as well as I highly recommend using parachute buckles because it has the option so you can tighten it and loosen it so they're not permanently one size. And for the length of the straps, it's going to depend on your body size. So if you are smaller in frame, then you're not going to need as much strapping. If you're a little bit on the larger side, then you'll need probably a little more extra length. Then cut it, and nylon strapping will fray at the edges. And what you can do to prevent this is to either use a heat gun and heat up that edge, and it's actually going to melt that edge down and make it so it doesn't fray, or you can just use a lighter. Then insert that strap from the underside of the harness going upwards, and we're going to pin it to itself. I recommend having it where it comes around at least 2 to 3 inches, so that way we can make sure when we go to our sewing machine, we have enough room to stitch it together. And for best results, I recommend the lightning bolt stitch to make sure that it holds together properly, as well as going back at least 3 to 4 times doing the zigzags back and forth, so it'll really hold everything. Then insert the strap through the bottom hole and then add your final touch of the parachute buckle. And this should complete the base part of our harness. Now we still have one more attachment we have to talk about with the knuckles, and that is each of the knuckles will also have a size 1/2 inch PVC pipe coming out of it. And depending on the length of your wings will depend on the length of the pipe that you will want to cut. And I'll typically get my wing and lay it on top to kind of get a rough idea of how much I want to cut. For this example, it's going to be around 4 to 5 inches for these wings. You can also bend your PVC pipe if you need it to be a more closer shape to the wing. You can fabricate the wing to go around the pipe better, or if you want, you can even engineer and 3D model and print a piece to slide onto your pipe as well. There's a lot of different options you can do with this. And once you're happy with the length, then just cut it with a pipe cutter and repeat the same process of sandpaper and your 2-part epoxy. And now I'll show you how I attached my wings to the knuckles. And what I did was I put the harness and the knuckles on one of my dress forms, and I placed the wing on one side so I could get a relatively idea of where I wanted it to lay. I will note that I put the wing part over the knuckles as well to hide that. and then traced on the backside where I wanted to apply my contact cement glue. And once that was dry, attached it together. Side note, for attaching the wings, I always recommend to attach them when the knuckles are actually on the harness to make sure that your wings are aligned so you don't have one dripping down farther than the other. And for this specific design, I wanted to enclose the pipe so it doesn't show, so I just got some more 6mm foam and I traced this weird shape around it, cut it, and attached it in place. And all I had left was a little bit of sanding to remove that rough edge, and that pretty much completed all of the fabrication part of these wings and harness. Now for our quick and easy painting of these wings. And here's everything that I used for painting them, and a reminder that if you don't have airbrush paint or a compressor, you can always hand paint these wings with a paintbrush. And our first step is going to be priming the foam. And like I always do for foam, I like to use Plasti-Dip, which is a rubber spray paint, and it's just going to help hold all of your pieces together more and make it more even and have a base for our paint to go onto. And I do this in 3 heavy coats, waiting 45 minutes in between each layer for it to fully dry. Side note, try to avoid the inside part of the knuckles when doing this, as you don't want the pieces to have issues sliding on and off. Then for painting, and we're going to be using airbrush paint and sealer provided by Kratex Colors, as well as our airbrush and compressor provided by Iwata Airbrush. And our first coat of paint is going to be Kratex Colors Wicked Opaque Black. And I applied this onto all of our outer vein-like parts. And once dry, I masked off those parts with masking tape. And for the wing webbing part, I did a mixture of the opaque black, white, and dioxide purple. And I wanted just a little bit of shading just to kind of bring this a little bit more to life since it's a simple paint job. So I just added a little bit more black to that mixture and focused more around the vein-like parts just so there was a little more shadowing in that area. And then once that's dry, removed all the masking tape. And then for the final part, which was going to be sealing it. And for this, I like to use Kratex Colors UVLS Matte. And I apply this evenly onto all surfaces, which will protect our paint from fading and give everything an even shine. And that will complete our wings. And I suggest when doing your wing harness to have it where the straps go over the arms. They will then come through here, and not to permanently attach them there, make sure they are loose, because depending on the day you may want them looser or you may want them tighter. And so having it go through these holes and then going around the body and connecting with a parachute buckle will make it the best and most ideal comfort for wearing a harness. As well as you may be thinking, well, how am I supposed to hide this harness? Well, the easy thing is, since these wings detach, this whole harness can go under your costume, and all you need to do is cut out a little small shape on the back of your costume to fit just this part and this part, so that way this will stick out of your costume and make it so it is completely hidden, and then you can attach your wings onto. And that, guys, is how I made these wings as well as this wing harness. Reminder, this is the wing harness for small scale, more lighter weight wings. And if you are interested in the other one, I'll have a link to that tutorial for making the larger scale winged heavyweight wing harness. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, let me know if this tutorial was helpful and if this wing harness will be helpful for you for your next cosplay build. As well as a big thank you to all of my company sponsors here on YouTube and all of my members, specifically those legendary members, because without y'all, I do not exist and I cannot make more cosplay tutorials. So thank you very much. I really appreciate all of your support, and I'll see you for our next tutorial. Much love, guys.